Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Bryan Gentry. He's the author of 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals. And Bryan is an American entrepreneur. He's a music producer, a songwriter. He has experience in the solar sales industry. He has a career out of Nashville and music publishing. His music can be found on Disney, Sony Music, Bravo, Fox, and TMZ. So we're going to be talking all about sales and positivity and referrals and lead generation and all sorts of things. So Bryan, glad to be talking to you.
That was an awesome intro, man.
I do my best.
Part-time president of the United States.
Yes,
No,
I mean, such a long resume. It's all sorts of things. And so, there's all sorts of musicians, all sorts of salespeople out there. But what sets you apart? What makes you really stand out?
I would say, well, thanks for having me, by the way. But I would say that I have a unique take on sales because I do come from, the music industry, entertainment industry. Know a lot of actors and, having the background with artists and executives, all that kind of stuff. So I had a unique take on learning sales because I didn't do it traditionally. Like, traditionally being, you go to a business, you sell a service, you sell a product, you kind of learn skills as you go, you read some books and stuff like that, right? But for me, I had to kind of like force myself to learn how to sell myself. You know what I mean? Because this industry, in the music industry, as a songwriter, as a music producer, because that's what I am, I had to figure out, hey, like, it's not just talent that gets you there, right? It's not just my gift of music and, my gift of writing songs. Like, my job, my sole purpose really was to learn how to sell myself to artists, to other producers that I wanted to collaborate with, to music executives, you know what I mean? To like get my foot in the door to meet certain artists. So that required salesmanship that I didn't have, that I had to force myself to learn, reading books, but also just like learning the game of the industry. It all tied to sales. So that's just kind of give you an idea of that.
I love that. And I don't know anything about the music or entertainment industry at all, but you hear a lot about the like networking or nepotism, or some people have, they get like the lucky breaks, or they get these opportunities that they don't really deserve. But then you really can't help but really respect the people that kind of do the hustle and that kind of are always like being strategic and always working and always kind of like just being in contact in order to kind of make their own luck. And so as far as you and your journey and what you've kind of had to learn in sales, like what have you accomplished in the music industry and in your sales career? Like, what has all of this hustle led to?
Yeah, so I began my journey in 2007. So right out of high school, I got a music publishing deal. I was not interested in going to get in debt with college. I liked the idea of college, but I just wasn't interested in getting in debt. So luckily, the one thing I did have was talent, right? To write enough music that appealed to people that were already successful in the industry. So right out of high school, got the music publishing deal. I ended up writing for Walt Disney Records, pretty big Brazilian artist named Vanessa Carmigio. She's like, I don't know, she's like the Britney Spears of Brazil. Huge records over there. That really helped me. But I ended up actually writing with Britney Spears, which was pretty cool. Nothing really panned out the way that I wanted it to. I haven't got like a big hit with her, but that opened the doors, obviously. So yeah, music production. I've worked with Fox, TMZ, Netflix, Disney. Co-wrote the theme song for The Housewives of Miami.
Awesome.
Not my best work, but it helps pay the bills. And being a music producer, any business is good in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, as far as like learning sales through all that, just being years in the industry, it's a highly competitive thing. So I had to figure out people. I had to figure out how to navigate other people's desires to, in LA, especially, people are always looking out for themselves. People are like, what's in it for me, right? And if you're a dude and you're not like a hot blonde, no offense, right? But if you're just not like a hot girl, it's much harder to really break through, to get your name known in the industry, to get yourself in the doors, into the studio rooms with, Timberland, with the big people. Red One, which is a friend of mine, he produced Lady Gaga's album, the Breakthrough album. It's very difficult. So salesmanship was huge. And a good example of this is and I always say this example because it really does strike me when I watch the video. If you go to YouTube, look up Jay-Z and Timberland in the studio listening to Dirt Off My Shoulder. Do you remember that song, Dirt Off My Shoulder? You gotta get that dirt off your shoulder. You gotta get Jay-Z. Anyway, they're in the studio and Timberland is showing him that beat for the first time. And you can just see it on Jay-Z's face. He's like, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? This is the beat right here. Timberland, his way that he sold that beat is being extremely confident. Obviously, he had the skill. That's just a prerequisite, right? You got to have the skill. You got to be able to make the music or be a good songwriter. But he was a salesman, right? And the way that he sold that beat was by first his body language. He plays the track. He's pumping himself into it. He's getting into it. If he just sat there and let the beat play, it may not have been as appealing to Jay-Z to go with that beat, right? But he was like really getting into the music. You can just watch that video, right? He's really getting into the music. And he pretty much just said it like, I'm the best. You know what I mean? And I said it for the record, I'm the best. You know what I mean? So he was selling himself to Jay-Z. Jay-Z ended up going with that beat and became a pretty big song.
And you hear about this a lot with like the sales training, that there are many things that you normally wouldn't think is a sale. Like there might even be trying to sell your spouse on a vacation, or you might be trying to sell your boss on some idea at work. And a lot of the techniques are the same as far as the confidence and being curious and appealing to their motivations and not just what you think they want to hear, and all these different things that play. And so what's sort of your process as far as like this journey? Like, are you the kind of person where you say, well, I need to be like hitting my quota, I need to be talking to X number of people per day, or I need to have these conversations? Like, how do you even begin to attack this?
Yeah, I would say for me, I don't get too hung up on numbers, although the numbers are important. You got to make sure your business is growing, right? I would say that the biggest takeaway, and this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals, is because obviously I do have a unique experience with sales, right? But I ended up starting a solar company because I believe in the industry. Like I believe in, helping the environment, but also it does save people a lot of money. I don't know if you know much about solar, but the solar business is great. It's kind of akin to like the early days of the trains the railroads being laid down, right? It's very early. So railroads are just being laid down in the solar industry, but it's starting to take off. So for me, I believe in being 100% genuine with your customers. You have to be authentic because that's the new way to sell. And I cover this a lot in the book. If you're not genuine with your customers, people are intuitively inclined to see the truth of who you are, a sleazy salesman. You know what I'm saying? People naturally are gifted. You are probably really good at knowing subtly if someone is just trying to get money out of you, right?
Sure.
So the new way to sell, and trust me, dude, I spent a lot of time with this. I picked up tons and tons of books. I've read a lot of books about sales, and unfortunately, I love the books. A lot of those principles still work, right? But they're just kind of antiquated. They're kind of outdated. They're collecting dust. They're in some cases just kind of morally not sound, right? They're just kind of morally not right because they're just after like, how do you close the most deals as possible? How do you maximize yourself and make as much money as possible? I'm not really about that. I'm looking for more of long-term play. And by being genuine with your customer, like if you're 100% genuine with them, they're going to know it intuitively. They're going to see that you care about them. You care about what they're trying to do. You care about the problem that you're trying to solve. You care about that problem, and you're not just trying to get money out of them. Once you have that relationship with your customer, your prospect, they will pretty much buy anything that you suggest once you really build that with them, right? But you can't do it any other way. You have to have that being genuine with them, and they have to trust you 100% in order to get the deal. And I also call it referral machine. Once you have that trust, like real trust, they're going to send you referrals, lots of referrals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
All this completely. Well, yeah. Just it helps us get a peek into kind of your mindset there of that. It's your modern day about the finesse, about the nuance. And for sure in sales, there's like there's the path, right? There's like the levels of awareness or whatever you want to call it, where like someone like doesn't know you or doesn't know what your solution is, and you kind of guide them along, and they might go fast or they might go slow, and they might cut out and just kind of completely disqualify themselves and drop off, and it's not a deal, or it might slowly progress towards a deal. And you're saying that kind of the old outdated way is to use the hard techniques and the canned responses, and to just
Yeah.
kind of be kind of cold and logical and all about the numbers. And the new way of going about it is to be more emotional and intuitive and make it all about them and have a conversation and just kind of be more easygoing and address their needs. So that way it's a smoother process for everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the best way I like to look at it is, yes, I could hard sell someone. You know what I mean? You can learn the skills to close most deals by hard selling, right? Someone tells you, I need to think about it. I have a whole list of things I can say to that. And I think it is important to have those skills in your back pocket, right? But I think in this modern era, it's so critical to be one, especially because look at the world. You know what I mean? It's just we've lost honesty, we've lost authenticity. Social media has kind of driven that too. But like even in politics, I don't want to go there, but like even in politics, it's just like it's hard to trust things these days. It's hard to trust the media. It's hard to trust what's being fed to us all the time, right? So the last thing people want to deal with is a sleazy salesman that just wants to make money off of them. So if you want to improve your sales game, like if you really want to be the new master of sales, you have to be authentic and genuine with your customers so that they can trust you. Um, and also when you display authenticity and when you're being 100% genuine with your customers, you're going to naturally want to stand behind products and services that you truly believe in, right? Because you're going to know yourself. You can't lie to yourself, right? You want to be honest with yourself too to be a good salesman. So if you have a product or a service that you believe in my case, it's solar. I truly believe that solar is going to do something good for this customer. I truly believe it's going to save them money. Of course, I want to make money. Who doesn't want to make money, right? But like, it really does matter when you believe in what you're selling. If you don't believe in it, the customer, and again, they're intuitive. They can see it. They can read through the lines. They can tell you're rehearsed. You know what I mean? So if you always come from a place of being genuine and authentic, and you actually care about, hey, like this is a really good product for you. Like this really is going to save you money. It's good for the environment, X, Y, Z. You have all these things down about your product or service, but your main mindset is that you're being genuine with them. You're really trying to help them and you're being authentic with them. And you're not thinking about, oh, they're giving me this objection. Oh man, I got to do this and that. If that is at the forefront of your mind, being authentic, genuine, you're going to close more deals. 100%.
Authentic, genuine, helpful. And if so, if someone out there is maybe stuck or frustrated or feels like they could accomplish more with whatever the context of selling is, right? If they're a solar salesman, if they're in the music business, whatever it is, what would help the most? Like, is it a matter of like more experience, like maybe go through the awkward phase at first to build the confidence, to have the objection handling all be kind of built in and intuitive, or just like what's the answer for someone getting from the starting point, like maybe like where you started, towards the present day where they're being genuine, they're being helpful? How does a person get to that point?
Yeah, I would say people are naturally born salespeople. They just haven't honed their craft yet. They just haven't really reached their full potential in sales, right? Most people have a natural gift, as you said. Like we're always trying to sell something, whether it's a political idea that you're trying to convince someone else of, whether you're talking to your spouse about, hey, I want to go to Olive Garden tonight and she wants to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like we're constantly engaging in sales opportunities. We just don't look at them that way. We just look at them as normality, right? But the truth is, like everywhere you look, I mean, like there was a study done showing that couples argue 7 times a day. So that's 2,555 times a year that you're engaged in some type of salesmanship, some level of it, right? So we have it. The trick is coming from a place, and I come back to this genuine part, right, is coming from a place of caring about the other person more than yourself. And it's a hard thing to do. I'm preaching to the choir here. It took me a long time because in LA, you're trained to do the exact opposite. And anyone from LA knows this. If you're living in LA, everyone's out for themselves. They want to benefit themselves. What can I get from the other person? Flip it. Flip that. You want to maximize that person's experience. You want to give as much value as possible to that person. And in return, you're going to make money too. That's the beautiful part. But like I promise you, the more genuine you are, here's a better way to think of it, because this is the question that you ask. Treat every sales opportunity as if you're talking to your mother. If you do that and you make that your mindset, you're going to naturally become more honest, because you don't want to F your mom over. You know what I mean? You don't want to screw her over. It's your mom. So what's the difference there, right? So remove your mom out of the picture again. What are you trying to do? You know what I mean? What are you trying to do to that person? Most people are going to fall in the trap of just, I need to make money off of this person. I want to sell them this so I can make money off of them, right? Flip it. Treat it as if it's your family member, anyone, someone you really care about, and your pitch, your style that you talk to them, everything's going to change, and you will build the trust. They know that you're being 100% honest because you're being you. You're not putting on the salesmanship show. Your family sees it when you're being honest. So do the same thing for your prospects. If you do that, they're going to trust you. You're going to win the deal. Even if someone's more expensive, less expensive than you, and you're way more expensive than the other guy, whether you're for your product or service, the trust factor goes a long way. And then once you have that, once you sell that person, it's just going to open the door to tons of referrals.
Amazing. That's practical and that's doable. You're saying when you're dealing with this prospect, whoever they are, imagine if they are your mother, and that way there's all this built-in empathy and self-awareness and honesty and everything that goes along with that. And so this is all really great stuff to think about. And as we both know, like sometimes it's a long journey, right? I mean, who the heck knows how many phone calls and emails that you had to make in your musical career and solar career. And it's just one of those things where you put in the work and you kind of refine and figure out who you are. And there's kind of like this part of like self-expression that comes out as well. And so you have your book, 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals. So if I was your mother asking about this book, what would you tell me about it? Like, why is it so important to have it, and why should you go get it right now?
Dude, that's a beautiful way to ask it, man. I'm glad you asked it that way. Yeah, I would tell my mother the reason why it would be important for her to read the book. Obviously she's, I'm her son, right? But mainly because everyone's a salesperson. As I said, like everyone is a salesperson. We have to become better at communicating that to others, no matter who you are. If you have a boss, communicating getting an idea across to your boss in a certain way that might help you get a job promotion in the future. That's salesmanship, right? So if I were explaining that to my mom, I'd also say, don't spend a lot of money reading all these sales books about these outdated principles, really, that just, to me, is just a form of manipulation. You know what I mean? It's just like really good manipulation tactics that I don't agree with. You know what I mean? There's a few, and I'm not going to name names, right? But there's really popular books in the sales categories that do just that. If you really read the underlying message of what they're doing, it's really manipulative and just morally messed up, right? So I would say, Mom, you're a salesperson. We're all salespeople. You have a job that you want to, improve on, right? So learning these skills, learning how to communicate better, learning how to make people trust you and respect you, is going to take you further in your job.
I love it. And as you said, you're probably doing it already. You're just not realizing it, right? You're having one of those
Exactly.
2,000 plus arguments with your spouse. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And wouldn't it be helpful to be aware of when it does work, what are you doing right? Not in a manipulative way, just in a way where everyone can win and everyone can get to the same place, which is a benefit of some sort. And so that's your book. And you also have this solar business. So can you tell us about that as well?
Yeah. So the solar business is called Sun Tap Power, like you're tapping into the sun, Sun Tap Power. I started that back in 2020 with my co-founder, JCD Fitness. His name's JC, but from JCD Fitness, he's from Men's Health Magazine. Really we believe in the industry. We both believe in, obviously, solar's taking off. We believe that there's an opportunity there to make money, right? But there's an opportunity to do good for the world, right? I think that whether you believe in climate change or not, right? At the end of the day, obviously having solar energy is clean. It's a cleaner version. It's you're more energy independent. There's a lot of benefits to that, right? I can list a whole list of things that are beneficial. But at the end of the day, energy independence is great. But at the end of the day, I'm selling something that I believe in, and I feel good about selling it. So that's my message to people. If anything from this whole conversation is, if you're a salesperson or if you're wanting to get into sales, come join Solar. That's great. But stand behind a product or service that you really believe in. And that's the perfect step to begin your career.
And I imagine that will really sustain you for those difficult days or weeks when you say, oh, I don't really feel like getting out of bed, or do I really have to make these 50 phone calls? Well, if you believe in it, then you can emotionally power through some of that legwork that you have to do. And so if someone is interested in Sun Tap Power, is it limited to like a certain geographic area, or how does someone jump into that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in going solar, or if you're interested in a sales job, we are in about 4 different states right now, but we are expanding pretty quickly. We just started in 2020. So, I mean, we're pretty happy with our growth, but of course we want to grow more. Go to suntappower.com. But if you're interested in the book, you would want to go to BryianGentry.com. That's Bryan, BryanGentry.com/sales. That's where you can go pick up my book. I'm giving it away for free for your listeners. I'm going to give it away for free in a PDF version.
Nice and simple. BryianGentry.com/sales and suntappower.com. And as we're kind of winding down our conversation, Bryan, as you know, the benefit of having a podcast guest or reading someone's book is all of those years of trial and error that are like compressed, right? You read someone's book and they've had 50 years of sales experience in a few hours. You save yourself all the time on all those mistakes. And so have you ever thought about, is there something that you could tell your past self, right? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to really get yourself on the path you are now, to avoid some mistake or do an even better job? I mean, what would you tell yourself 10 or 20 years ago to really change your life now?
I don't want to get too woo-woo, right? But not to be so hard on yourself. People tend to do that. They get really hard on themselves. And I say this because I have, a heart for people. And I just know that in the state of the world, like how the world is today, we're so quote unquote connected, but we're far from that. We're disconnected, right? We're self-obsessed. The culture has kind of just made us focus on all these things that are really bad for us. Like the news is bad for us. Like even social media could be bad for us, timeless scrolling on these apps. And then you hold yourself to these like all these outside pressures are coming down on people. And then here you are talking in your own head, being so hard on yourself about, why am I not this? Why haven't I reached this by this age? Why haven't I done these things? You know what I mean? Oh, I wish I was that. I wish I was this. We have all these kinds of talks in our head. And I would just say, and I know it's hard, stop doing that. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's going to be okay. As long as you're taking action to pursue your dreams and your goals, it's going to be okay. Put your hand on your chest. Take a moment to breathe, and just say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. It's going to be all right. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that. It's tempting to compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. And I had a little bit of an aha a couple of weeks ago when just that there something along the lines of what you were saying of like the things that you say to yourself that are so mean and so negative, you'd never say to even one other person. And if you think about even your whole lifetime of just like you said this nasty thing and that nasty thing, all that added up. I mean, you're your own worst critic. And so is there really an easy answer other than, as you said, like put your hand on your chest, breathe, overcome it with positivity? Is that really just all we can do? I mean, there's got to be an easier way to overcome the self-doubt and criticism, right?
Yeah, and it's easier said than done, right? I'm someone who's, and to be real with you, I've struggled with anxiety, right? So I've had to learn this a very hard way. Um, and I've had to learn that the reason why I had anxiety was because I was being hard on myself. So it's kind of just like letting go. It's not easy, but just kind of let go and keep doing it until it becomes who you are. You keep, again, put your hand on your chest, breathe in and out through your nose slowly, and just say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. Every time you catch yourself doing it, just don't, you know what I mean? The more you practice that power, you start taking control of it. You know what I mean? And to me, it is that easy. It's because you're replacing that negative voice with your own voice, your true voice. Because
And I,
everyone has, you know what I mean? Everyone has a real voice. Their true voice is the one that has been kind of buried because the outside world is doing this to us constantly, you know?
I love that. Your inner voice, inner self has been buried. And even the way you describe it, it might even be somewhat of a feedback loop, right? You
Yeah,
have anxiety, and that leads you to saying the nasty things, which leads to more
exactly.
anxiety. And so you even said in there that we need to maybe, instead of hoping it will go away or trying to dim it down, replace it with something better. And it might not be overnight, it might not be instant, but take that action and do that deliberate mental work to lift up the positive thoughts, to drown out the negative thoughts. And before you know it, that it won't happen overnight, but you can kind of shift yourself and be that better person. And the very
Yep.
next step to making that positive shift is to claim your copy of 21 Hacks to Sell More Deals at bryiangentry.com/sales. And also check out SunTap Power if you're in one of those 4 states and if the whole solar industry tickles your pickle and gets you perked up. And so there's got to be a better way of saying that. But anyway, Bryan, it's been real nice talking with you and kind of digging deep into this emotional stuff, into what we need to put ourselves out there and to succeed in sales in whatever context. So I appreciate you, and we'll see you at bryiangentry.com/sales. So thank you very much, Bryan.
Thanks, Robert.